Time now to take a look at some of your headlines. James Holmes, the man convicted of shooting up a Colorado movie theater, may face the death penalty. Jurors in the shooting trial are now moving into the third part of the sentencing phase, and doing so, they leave open the possibility that Holmes may be sentenced to death. They deliberated for less than 3 hours. The same jury rejected Holmes' defense that he was insane when he shot and killed a dozen people and wounded 70 others back in 2013. Puerto Rico has just defaulted for the first time in its history. It was only able to pay $628,000 today towards its $58 million debt due to creditors. It will likely officially declare itself in default by the end of the day. A 9-year-old bat boy dies after being hit in the head with a bat. An ambulance rushed towards Kaiser Carlisle to the hospital Saturday night. It happened just during batting practice. He later passed away. The boy was wearing a helmet at the time. James Schofield, one of the 3 infamous school bus kidnappers, will soon leave prison this week as a free man. He spent nearly 40 years in prison after receiving a life sentence for his role in the abduction of 26 elementary school students and their bus driver. The bus was hijacked and the children and driver were forced into an underground bunker, but they managed to escape while Schofield and the other kidnappers were asleep. A Seattle CEO who set his company's minimum wage to $70,000 hits hard times. Dan Price, the CEO of Gravity Payments, a credit card processing company, says things have gotten so bad he's now renting out his house and just trying to make ends meet. He says he wasn't prepared to deal with the positive and negative feedback he's received after changing his company's starting salary to $70,000 a year. Bobby Christina Brown, the daughter of Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown, was laid to rest over the weekend. The 22-year-old was found face down in a bathtub earlier this year. She spent the past 6 months in hospice care, never regaining consciousness.
All right, well, rumors of a presidential run by Vice President Joe Biden have been out there for a while, but now there's a chorus starting to get a little bit louder. Over the weekend, New York Times, Maureen Dowd wrote about how the vice president's late son, Beau Biden, on his deathbed, urged his father to run for president, saying, quote, the White House should not revert to the Clintons. The country would be better off with Biden values. Now a senior advisor who once worked for Beau Biden is now part of the Draft Biden Super PAC. And that's a great place to start our roundtable. Here with us, president of Citizens for Self-Governance, Attorney Mark Meckler, and former advisor to Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid, host of the agenda, Ari Rabin-Havt. Thanks so much for joining us. Ari, let's start with you. Here is what Senator Bernie Sanders had to say about Biden's possible run.
Well, I've known Joe Biden for many years, and I'm very fond of Joe. But I think the American people want to go beyond conventional establishment politics.
Now, there seems to be this anything but Clinton feeling among Democratic voters, at least during this primary process. And that may be why Bernie Sanders has proven to be so popular this time around. But who is more threatened right now in the short term, at least, by a Biden run? Is it Bernie Sanders or is it Hillary Clinton?
I don't think either. And look, I know Josh Alcorn, the staffer. We worked together in Harry Reid's office. He's a really smart guy, one of the best in politics. And I think he will only add to the Draft Biden effort in positive ways. But I do think that ultimately Joe probably won't run, mainly because it's a little late in the race to start. I think it's a really hard climb up. And I also think that he faces another problem, which is finding kind of his niche in the primary process. Look, Hillary Clinton, despite what people say, remains exceptionally popular among Democratic voters. And Bernie Sanders has taken the mantle on a number of issues that Joe Biden can't grab the mantle on.
All right, well, Ari, let me jump in right there because I want to ask Mark this question, because the thing that should still be very scary for Hillary Clinton right now are her favorability, unfavorability numbers, as well as her trustworthy numbers. At the same time, Joe Biden's favorability as a 7-year high, according to that Quinnipiac poll that came out just last week. Mark, why wouldn't Biden run?
Well, I think there are 2 things that come into play here. One is pretty gutsy to float the statement in an article that Beau Biden, his now recently deceased son, asked him to run for the presidency if he's not actually serious about running for the presidency. And basically what he's saying is, as his dying wish, my son asked me to do this. If he doesn't, he's saying I'm not honoring my son's dying wish. I don't think that's the kind of gamble that Biden takes lightly. He has very high favorables, really known as Uncle Joe out there in general America. He's been given a lot of grace even for the silly things he says because he is such a likable guy. And that's a very dramatic contrast to Hillary Clinton. Her likability, very, very low. People see her as fake, as dishonest. Joe Biden is literally the counter medicine for Hillary Clinton, so I think he's very dangerous.
Yeah, there's also been some discussion. Josh Earnest saying some things that didn't exactly clear up the issue too much either. When we come back, guys, we want to talk a little bit more about Chuck Schumer. He's been out there talking, but not talking about the Iranian nuclear deal. A lot of folks trying to see where Schumer's going to come down on all this. Atty Rabin-Havt going to stick around with us. Mark Meckler also going to be with us. We have more coming for you right here on Newsmax Now, right after this short commercial break.
We want to welcome back our roundtable again for part 2. And rejoining us is Atty Rabin-Havt and Mark Meckler. Thanks so much for sticking around, guys. Do we have you?
Yep,
there you are. Okay. And there was
Creating
pictures.
Suspense.
There we go. That's right. So, Atty, I want to start with you. There was this ad that ran over the weekend, Hillary trying to kind of reinvent herself, show this softer side. We have a little bit that we want to show.
When I think about why I'm doing this, I think about my mother, Dorothy. She was abandoned by her parents at the age of 8.
All right, this is a much different spot than what we've seen Hillary put out in the past. Do you think that this will resonate with voters?
Look, I think the goal is to resonate with Democratic primary voters specifically, and I think it will do that. It's a good ad. The idea is to show a different side of her, to show the type of campaign she's been running. And look, Democratic primary voters, despite all the media coverage, do actually like Hillary Clinton. Even Bernie Sanders voters talk about how much they like Hillary Clinton. In fact, even Bernie Sanders talks about that.
Mark, what do you think? Do you think it's going to be that effective?
It seemed like a good ad to me, but I have to say, last night, just flipping channels, I caught a portion of a Hillary Clinton speech somewhere. I have to say, in all of my years watching folks in public life, I've never seen such a stilted, fake presentation. She really struggles to connect with audiences. Literally her hand gestures, her motions, her facial expressions. She really struggles to be genuine. That may not be the real Hillary we see on stage, but it's the one she's going to present to the American people. And I think she's going to struggle because of it. Again, great contrast with Joe Biden, who always seems like himself, very natural, very comfortable and warm.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%,
Great.
Mark. And all right, even if you're not, even if you're supporting Hillary Clinton, you have to be deep down inside kind of begging her to let it loose a little bit, because as Mark mentioned, she does seem so scripted right now and so calculated in every single thing she's doing, and that might be the reason why those favorable, unfavorable numbers and the trustworthy numbers are upside down right now.
Give me a choice between Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, or any one of the contenders in the Republican primary. I'll take that. I'll take the Democrats every day. I'll take that bet twice a day. I'll even give you odds on that bet.
But do you agree with what Mark's saying, though, Ari? Do you agree with what he's saying, that, Biden seems to come off a little more genuine than Clinton does?
Look, I think they both have their strengths as a candidate. I think Joe Biden is a nice, genuine guy. Where do I think Joe Biden's troubles will lie? Mark said something about labor and Joe Biden. That's not going to happen, because Joe Biden's going to have to get the administrations back on TPP, which would take out the labor vote for him instantly, for example. So the kind of idea that Joe Biden has a constituency. Look, Joe Biden's a great vice president. He would be a great candidate. I just think it's a bit late for him to establish that at this point.
That's true. Those are all fair points.
You want to talk about Senator Chuck Schumer, guys, and that Iran nuclear deal? As far as Senator Schumer's vote is concerned, a new column, maybe you saw this in Politico, says there's growing signs that he's actually going to oppose this deal. And so I'm going to start with you, Mark. If he does, how critical will that be to the Obama administration? Because many think that if he opposes it, that other Democrats are going to follow suit.
I think it's very critical. A senior guy like him, slated for top leadership in the Democratic Party, he's going to lead the way, and he's going to provide a shield for anybody else who wants to go with him. And as a longtime supporter of Israel, I would find it astounding if he's able to support this deal in light of what the Israelis think about it, and frankly, what most sane people in the world think about it.
Well, you have to.
Which Israelis? Ephraim Halevi, the former head of the Mossad, says this deal's a good deal, and I can come up with a list of probably 50 or 60 other Israeli foreign policy and military eminences who think this is a good deal. Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't, but plenty of Israeli experts and Israelis think this is a good deal.
Well, some of his own constituents right here, Ari, were showing this video, gathered in Times Square, New York last week to urge Senator Schumer to oppose the deal. These are the types of people that are going to be voting when he's up for re-election. Those are the ones he's got to be concerned about, right?
The truth is, this is all a show. Let me tell you why. There's a letter in the House that has 150 Democratic signers on it supporting the premise of this deal. 144. They would need Democrats need 144 votes to hold a veto in place in the House.
All right, do you think we're going to go through the whole rigmarole here? We're going to have the opposition in the Senate, and then it's going to be vetoed by the president. It's going to go back to the Senate, and it's not going to be. They're not going to have the votes to override the veto.
They won't have the votes in the House. The Senate, they'll be close. I don't think they'll get the votes ultimately, but in the House, they won't have the votes to override the veto. Definitely not.
I think Ari grossly misunderestimates the power of the grassroots. The vast majority of Americans think this is a bad deal. There are no verifiable inspection practices.
The vast majority does not think this is a bad deal.
We'll see what happens.
We got to wrap up. We do want to point out, though, that Chuck Schumer not talking about the Iranian nuclear deal, but he is talking about gun control with his cousin Amy Schumer, the actress. And folks should check that out. Make sure you Google that. She had a very heartfelt plea for gun control. I just don't know if she was getting wrapped up in the politics of the whole thing too much. Maybe getting
Well, it's got to be disheartening to find out that people were shot while watching your film.
I understand where she's coming from, why she's so upset, but I don't know. Chuck Schumer may be using this to his own political ends more so than to deal with gun control. But all right, Rabin-Havt, topic of conversation for another day. Mark Meckler, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we've heard from our panelists. We want to hear from you. We want to make sure you go to newsmaxpolls.com and weigh in on who you think should be the choice for the GOP's 2016 nominee. More coming up right after this.